Welcome. Have to get a little closer together. We don't social distance against each other.
No.
Okay. All right. Welcome to our social tonight, the Kidlit Distancing Social. And there you guys are already in there. Outstanding. Yay. So for those of you who are new to us, I'm hearing myself. Oh, I know what that is. Hang on. Hang on. All right, welcome.
Got too many windows open.
Okay. That was Facebook talking to us, by the way. All right. There we are. Okay.
Hello.
So let's just get a little say hello in the chat box. So in there, and make sure that when you click that, where it says 2, it probably says all panelists by default. Click on that little drop-down menu and pick all panelists and attendees. That way we can all talk to each other. Just let us know where you're coming from tonight. And also, if you're just joining us for the first time, let us know too, so we can give you a proper welcome. So let's see who's in the chat tonight.
Lexine. Hi, Lexine.
Okay.
And Sherry's from Colorado. Hi, Sherry.
May from Toronto.
I'm seeing a lot of familiar names here, so thanks
Sherry,
for coming back.
Someone from Ohio.
And we will definitely get to your questions in a few minutes.
Yeah, put your questions, by the way. It might be easier to do them in the Q&A section. That way they'll all be separate from the chat. We can just kind of use the chat to talk. Natasha. Hi, Natasha. Joyce. Louisville, Kentucky. Robin, first time. Welcome, Robin.
Yay.
We need to start have some kind of little ritual for when you have a new person.
Like a little cowbell. I think we have a cowbell.
We probably
do. Find it.
Let's see. Tanya from Lone Tree. Janelle from Ghost Town, New York City.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Diane from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Illinois, Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
Hey, Vicki.
Oh, great. You guys are Beth from Saskatchewan. You can't read them all, but we're looking at them.
Oh, my gosh.
We see them all.
So great to see you all here today.
It's great. We're getting a bigger group every week because people want to connect, and we're happy to help you do that. So the first thing I want to do is we're going to be doing a little bit of polling tonight.
I have slides that explain this.
Do they need explanation?
No, but I put together slides with some fun pictures on it.
Since she did. Okay.
So you can go.
First of all, let me just mention this again. If you are new to us and you want to get on the list so that you keep getting notified about what the topics are and all that, there's 2 ways of doing it. There's the straightforward, boring way, and then there's the fun way. This is the boring way. But you just go to writeforkids.org/social and fill that out, and you'll be on our list. But if you don't already have it, this is the fun way to do it. Go to writeforkids.org/ultimate-cheat sheet, and we have a gift for you. It is the Ultimate Children's Writing Cheat Sheet, 30 years of our knowledge. It'll be 30 years in May of Children's Book Insider. 30 years of knowledge in one ebook. It's just a really tight resource. It's great, filled with lots of stuff. If you sign up for it, you will be on our list, so you'll get that. So just scribble that down or open up another tab and go to writeforkids.org/ultimate-cheat sheet, ultimate-cheat sheet. All right, first question. And let me open up the polls, and you're going to see it's pretty self-explanatory. Give me a minute. The question is, we want to know how you are doing right now.
You're actually going to get a poll, so you don't have to answer this in the chat box.
Yes, exactly. So give it a minute, and you'll see what we've done. There we go. So we've picked some children's book names, titles, and you tell us in the poll which one best fits how you are feeling right now. All right. Little Engine That Could is in the lead.
Whoa, that's awesome.
Still waiting on a few folks to vote. Polls are still open.
Polling will close.
There is no right. Yeah.
15 seconds.
There is no right answer. These days, I think we all probably bounce around all 5 of these within every day. So it's a snapshot of how you're doing right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome.
It looks like, let me close the poll.
Well, John, I was going to ask you how you're doing today.
I'm little engine that could. How about you?
Awesome. I'm aspiring to be the little engine that could. I'm trying. I'm a little pokey today, just because we did a webinar for another writing group early this morning. We're not used to thinking that early. That's thrown me off all day. Yeah. But I'm working on it. I've had my coffee, so.
So there we go. So little engine that could is the winner with 58%. Pokey little puppy like Laura at 22%. Let's share the results here. Okay, now you guys can see the results, right? Little engine that could. Good for you. And again, I have great sympathy with the Alexander, the terrible, horrible, no good day.
Absolutely.
And the Gruffalo. I've been there. I'll be there again. Pokey little puppy.
Yes.
And I hats off to SpongeBob's best day ever. So we'll be doing a little bit more of that later on. We have a couple more questions to ask you, so we'll do that for fun. Again, keep typing stuff in the chat box. We're very loose here. Laura, you want to take care of some celebrations?
So one of the things we do every week, if you're just joining us, is we celebrate the successes of our members. And so I have 3 great celebrations this week. Paulette Starkey has her debut picture book, A Doll for Grandma, A Story About Alzheimer's Disease, coming out on May 5th, very soon, by Beaming Books. So congratulations, Paulette. And she said she was inspired to write this story because of her volunteer work as a pianist at memory care homes and also taking care of family members with dementia. So what a great way to turn your personal experiences into a book that I'm sure is going to help a lot of kids understand Alzheimer's disease. So that's great. Kathy McMahon has self-published her chapter book, Mortimer and Me. She self-published this last August with the help of our self-publishing blueprint, and it's a chapter book. So good
Kathy.
for you,
That's
Kathy.
a good-looking cover, too.
It is a great cover. So congratulations on that. And Sean Mahoney had a short story, Fruit Flies, published in the May 19th, 2019 edition of the online Flash Fiction magazine. And he said that he feels manuscript magic on our writing blueprints really helped him shape this story and get it ready. And I put the URL there, flashfictionmagazine.com. By the way, congratulations, Sean. That's awesome. That might be a market some of you aren't aware of. It publishes work for adults and that new adult age group, maybe older YA. So it's not really children's stuff, but a lot of our people write more than children's books. So if you're writing short stories for an older market, this is a market for you to check out. And I notice they also have an award every year. So you might check that out. So we want to hear your good news. So email us at mail@writeforkids.org and put celebrate in the subject line, and we will celebrate with you on a future distancing social. And again, as I say every week, you don't have to have a publication. You can have anything, any little win you've gotten in your writing journey. We want to celebrate with you, regardless of what it is. If you found a great critique group, if you finally finished that deep edit of your middle grade novel.
Just got your blog launched.
If you launched your blog, if anything like that, let us know.
If you're doing anything cool to promote yourself, let us know. We'll happy to amplify it for you.
Absolutely.
We just want to celebrate any steps forward that any of our family makes.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the email, mail@writeforkids.org.
Okay, so industry updates and links of interest. So I do industry updates every week, and I added this week links of interest because I realized a lot of things haven't changed a whole lot in the industry since last week, so it would be a boring update. So a few things I wanted to tell you about that are cool. So if you're not aware, Publishers Weekly, which is the industry trade magazine, which is a very expensive subscription, by the way, It's currently making all its content free in digital form. So you can go to publishersweekly.com and sign up to get the weekly magazine in digital form delivered right to your inbox. And you also want to be sure you sign up for the Children's Bookshelf little e-zine that comes out twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That has always been free. So even after they stop making the full Publishers Weekly free, you can still get the Children's Bookshelf. But that's great because what they do is they compile the sort of news of interest in relation to the children's book industry twice a week and send that out. But if you get the full Publishers Weekly magazine, check out the April 13th edition. And if you go to the website, you can look at the archived edition, so you can go back to April 13th. They have a great article called Eye on Middle Grade. And middle grade is a very hot growing age group right now. And if you're writing middle grade or thinking about writing middle grade, I think that this feature will be really, really interesting to you. And they talk in depth, especially about how to approach more mental health topics for the middle grade age group, or issues that these kids are sort of struggling with in their lives. And I imagine a lot of you are getting some story ideas based on what we're going through right now that you might want to incorporate into a middle grade or young adult novel. And I think this article will be very enlightening for you. So check that out. The 2020 Green Earth Book Award winners were announced yesterday on Earth Day. And this is an award given by the Nature Generation, which is an organization that honors authors and illustrators who inspire children and teens to develop a deeper appreciation and respect for the natural environment. So I created a bit.ly link right there, because it was kind of a long link, to get to the award list, but it's a great list of books, and it goes from picture books through young adult, all earth and nature related, fiction, nonfiction, everything. So if you're looking for books to study, if you're looking for books to share with your kids, this is a really great list for you. Another little cool thing that you can use if you are analyzing books to use as mentor texts in your own writing is the Accelerated Reader Book Finder, which is at arbookfind.com. And this is a program that allows you to type in the title of a published book, and it will give you the word count, the reading level, page numbers, all kinds of great information. So a lot of times you're studying a book and you're like, I wonder how many words that was. This is a good way to find it. Or I wonder exactly what reading level this book hits. Especially if you're writing like easy readers, chapter books that are kind of geared to very specific reading levels, this is a great tool for you. So I just wanted to tell you that that's out there. Kind of one little industry news bit here is that the Bologna International Children's Book Fair will take place as a virtual event this year on May 4th through 7th. And this, I think, is really good news. If you're not familiar with what this is, the Bologna Book Fair it takes place every April, normally in Bologna, Italy. And it is an in-person book fair where editors and agents and publishing professionals, and even anybody who really just wants to go, congregates in Bologna, Italy. And that's where lots of international deals are made. It's where publishers might sell the rights of your book to a foreign publisher to get published in another country. There's a lot of illustrators there. I think there's a big illustrator showcase, and publishers find new illustrators there and stuff. But what this says to me is that the business of children's publishing is trying to continue as close to normal as possible. So they're going to do it as a virtual book fair this year, where everybody's going to log on to Zoom or Google Hangouts, but deals will be made, books will be presented. So that's good news as far as I'm concerned for the children's publishing industry. And to submit or not, this question I talk about every week. because people always want to know, can I still be submitting my manuscript right now to editors and agents? And that hasn't really changed since last week, when I said, yes, you can. My caveats that I always mention, be patient, because it might take them longer to get back to you, because they're all working from home and are dealing with the same stress as you are right now. Also, what I added last week is I had read comments from a lot of agents saying that right now they are focusing on submitting books to publishers that really have a strong hook to them. Things that publishers can look at and go, yep, that'll sell. So they're looking for more, I would say, commercial books, but also books where a hook is where you can sum up what's different and unique about your book in one sentence. And immediately when you read that, you go, I get it. That's how this book is going to stand out. If your book doesn't have a hook, it means it's going to take longer to gain an audience. And publishers, like everyone else, are hurting financially right now. And new books that they buy, they're going to want to know that they're going to make their money back on those books and more pretty quickly. So really focus on making your project as unique and strong as possible right now, which is always good advice, but especially now, before you submit it to either an agent or an editor. And I think that is going to work to your advantage in this particular climate.
Okay. We have a bunch of folks watching us on Facebook, and I want to give a shout out to them. We are on Zoom. That's the main platform. But I'm looking in the comments, and so if you have questions for our Ask Us Anything, it appears that our poll only shows up inside Zoom, but we'll give you the choices, and you can vote in Facebook. I want to say hello to Raymond and Anita, Nicole, Teresa, Howard, who's doing well in New Jersey, Dina, Teresa, and some other folks. A bunch of people are watching, so we see you and welcome. And feel free to, when we get to the Q&A part, the Ask Us Anything part, feel free to put your answers into the chat, into the comment section, and I'll pass them on to Laura. But first, we have another poll. And the question is, which children's book character would you most like to have dinner with? Okay, and here come the answers. Yeah.
Choices.
Or yeah.
The choices. You can choose the answers.
Relaunch polling.
It's the first time we've done polls.
Yeah,
so
we're trying something new here.
We're learning as we go here.
Oh, come on now. Stop the share. Maybe that's what I have to do. This entire thing is an experiment. Just remember that, people.
Thank you for bearing with us.
Okay, that's not the one we want?
No.
Oh, no. We know the poll question exists. Well, Laura, we may have to just do it manual. Read the answer, read it to a manual, and you guys could type. Could do that. So
I don't remember what we had on the poll.
It's a real professional operation we're running here. All right. So the poll question is, which children's book character would you most like to have dinner with? And here are your choices. Ramona Quimby, Holden Caulfield,
Harry Potter, Charlotte the Spider, Max from Where the Wild Things Are, and the Cat in the Hat. So we gave you 6 choices there.
So again, they are Ramona, Holden Caulfield, Harry Potter, Charlotte, Max from Where the Wild Things Are, and Cat in the Hat. And again, if you guys on Facebook want to type that into your section, I'd be happy to pass that along.
Oh, someone threw in Willy Wonka.
Oh yeah, write-in vote.
That was a write-in vote.
Well, you know, if the polling's not working, I guess we could do the write-in votes. I don't know if I trust Willy Wonka.
I know. What would he actually be feeding you at dinner? That's what I would want to know. I see lots of Charlottes, lots of Max from Where the Wild Things Are. Ramona, there's Harriet the Spy. Yeah, Harriet was I mean, we didn't want to make the poll too long, but I thought of Harriet. Yeah, sugar-coated cereal. That's exactly what Willy Wonka would be feeding you.
Anita went for Harry Potter. Nicole said the BFG.
Ah.
Dina, it's your first time. Welcome. And you're not seeing the poll. Well, neither is anybody else. But we're doing it verbally right now. So you could just go ahead and type in. Again, the choices are Ramona Quimby, Holden Caulfield, Harry Potter, Charlotte, Max, or the Cat in the Hat, or something else.
I didn't see Holden get one vote. Poor Holden.
He thinks you're all phonies.
You're all phonies.
Yeah. Hermione. It's Ramona, Paper Bag Princess, Harry Potter.
Harry Potter's got a lot.
Charlotte.
I think we just have to have a big dinner party and have everybody there.
This would be quite the dinner.
It would be quite the dinner. I don't know if I would want Max and the Cat in the Hat at the same table, though. I just think chaos would ensue.
Well, if only we had a system to actually count these.
Like a poll.
Like a polling feature. Oh, it was so planned out.
This is why we don't charge for these distancing socials, by the way.
Wait a minute.
Oh, now he's
figured it out.
Woo!
People are going to do it officially now.
Now we're going to make you re-vote just so we could have an official total. And
now we know. Facebook people, we are seeing you.
We'll have to read the results to you. You'll have to have they have the right in vote. They
absolutely can.
Okay. So, but yeah, oh my gosh, it's quite the race here to see who's going to win. It's almost neck and neck, except Holden. Holden's
getting stiffed.
Dead in the water.
Actually, we didn't have, now I realize it, I don't think we used Max. Max also, sorry. No one was voting for Max. Poor Max.
Lots of people were voting for Max. Okay. Well, we have
Yakko the monkey from Robert. That's your dark horse candidate.
Yakko, Max, and the Cat in the Hat will be at one table.
Charlotte the spider, Jean.
So it looks like we've got Charlotte wins on this revote, the recount, and Ramona is second.
Oh, let me go ahead and in the polling, and I'll share it with everybody.
All right.
So there you go. So it is, let's see, Charlotte with 33%, Ramona at 26%, Harry Potter at 21%, Cat in the Hat at 19%, and Holden Caulfield with nothing.
You just got to drop out.
Okay, so now that we know how to do this, we're going to have more polls, another poll in a minute. But let's get to the Ask Us Anything section. So again, if you are with us on Zoom, put your questions into the Q&A box. If you're on Facebook, go ahead and just put it into the comment section. And again, what you can ask about is anything about writing, getting published, or marketing your books. Anything goes. So let's start. Sue asks, since Laura's always probably going to do all the answering, I'll do the questioning.
Okay.
How much importance do agents and publishing houses give to a social media presence?
You know, it depends on the kind of publisher. Bigger publishers, the big 5 commercial houses, Random House, Simon & Schuster, Macmillan Group, the big ones, really want you to have a social media presence because obviously that's going to help you market your books. The smaller houses don't often say that it's as important to them, but it is. Basically, you know, every publisher is going to want you to take a big role in helping to market your books. Now, you don't have to have a huge social media presence before you have a book contract. However, when you submit to an agent, especially, but even editors, but especially agents, the first thing they're going to do is Google you. And if you don't even have a Facebook page or a small blog or anything, that's not necessarily a reason for them to just reject you out of hand, but it's going to say to them, you haven't even gotten online. And so it's going to take a lot longer for you to get up to speed as far as marketing your books. So I would suggest creating at least an author Facebook page, something separate from your personal stuff, where you can start posting about writing, about the topic you're writing about. You can share interesting posts from other authors, that kind of thing, to start creating an online presence. A simple blog is a good thing as well, or a very simple website. Again, it doesn't have to be real complicated. And then once you get a book contract, you'll be able to add to that and expand on it. So I think in this day and age, it's pretty important, even though if you flat out ask some editors, they'll say, well, that's not really the thing that I look at first, but I know it is something they do look at.
By the way, Lori voted for Holden Caulfield
All right, Lori.
So Holden is off the schneid.
I feel bad for Holden.
Okay, Beth says.
Hi, Beth.
Hi, Beth.
You know Beth.
I keep getting rejections from agents who say they like the premise of my novel, but, quote, just don't connect with the voice. Any resources you could suggest for this stuck-at-home time that would help with voice?
You know, specific resources like books on writing that work on voice. Of course, whenever anybody says, you know, what book do you recommend, your mind goes blank. Obviously, Anne Lamott's Bird by Bird has been, you know, true inspiration for a lot of writers. Stephen King's, I believe it's called On Writing, is also awesome. But I think that the best way to work on your voice is to, first of all, record yourself speaking. Just having a conversation with someone, and then transcribe that recording and really see how you talk. There are going to be certain cadences to your speech. There's going to be certain ways you put sentences and words together. And this is going to show you kind of how you naturally speak. And that is going to give you sort of a starting point for your writing. Also, I think a great writing exercise is to take a work that you don't even care about, that you have no ownership on. So say a classic fairy tale or something that someone else wrote, and rewrite it as if it's your story in your own voice. So you're not worried about plot, character, you know, any of that stuff. You're just working on voice. And I would try rewriting it lots of different ways. Funny, serious, first person, third person, you know, just really play around with it. And I think playing around with work, like I said, that you have no ownership of, frees you to really work on your voice. So those are a couple things that I would suggest.
Marianne asks about a synopsis for sending a query to an agent. Should we try to come up with a synopsis for a picture book manuscript, or do you think it's okay to skip that part if you are already including your pitch in the query letter section?
Well, I think that if an agent has the box, yeah, I know those online query managers, query trackers, they have boxes you have to fill in. And a lot of times it's like, well, I already said that in the previous box. I think you need to put something in there if you're submitting a picture book, just so you don't leave any blanks. But the pitch in your query letter is going to be very similar to your synopsis for a picture book. You might add another sentence for the synopsis. So certainly, even if you feel you're just pasting the pitch over again, I think that's fine, but I wouldn't leave the box blank. And you really should be able to summarize your picture book in 1 to 2 sentences, the plot, 3 at the very, very, very most. That's if it's a picture book for the older end of the audience, or it's a more complex, like narrative nonfiction biography or something. So it's good practice for you writing a synopsis. And if you can't summarize it that concisely, I would look at your manuscript again and see if maybe you've added too much to a picture book and you need to cut some parts out.
Sherry asks, I've decided to write short stories for magazines and I'm in a quandary about how to start. Should I just start with writing daily, then proceed from there? She has some topics already in mind.
I think you got to start with whatever works for you. If you can write daily, go for it. You've got topics, that's terrific. So just, you know, start working on your stories. I think it's a great idea to have, well, you know, you have topics, plural. maybe work on 2 or 3 short stories and see which one really speaks to you as your strongest, and then focus on that and edit it and revise it and polish it before you submit. But yes, if you can write daily, great. If not, if you've got certain time slots set aside each week that you can write, that's what you do. You have to find what works for you.
Diane asks, I submitted to an agent 4 weeks ago and haven't heard anything yet. Website said that if there's no response, it means no. If on the website they don't say, can I submit to another agent in the same agency? I plan to wait 2 more weeks before I submit.
Well, first of all, I would give them a little more time right now because nobody's in the office. They're all working from home and everything is just slowed down. So I know it's hard to wait, but I would give at least 8 weeks before you even decide what you're going to do. So the website says if there's no response, it means no. Yeah, and that's frustrating because you're like, well, how long do I have to wait? Usually on those websites, at least for agents, they tell you the time frame. So double check that and see if that information's there. And then I would add at least 3 weeks to that minimum for now because of what we're all experiencing.
Okay.
But the last part, can I submit to another agent in the same agency? That's a tough one because sometimes they'll specifically say a no from one agent means a no from everyone. Other agents specify a no from this agent, you can still submit to another agent in the same agency. So look at the guidelines carefully. If they don't specify, I would take that as no, you probably shouldn't submit to another agent at the agency. I would move on and find some other agents to submit to.
Okay, is a social media presence, what kind, all right, when agents or editors are asking for social media presence, what are they talking about? A blog, Facebook, Twitter, what?
I think, ultimately you're going to want to have a website, but if you're not ready to go there yet, certainly a Facebook page. And like I said, I would consider doing one that's specific for your writing so that it looks more professional. Twitter is good if you are sharing writing related feeds and tweets. So again, you might want to have a second Twitter account that is just for your writing. This helps avoid any embarrassing stuff that might show up on your personal Facebook page from being revealed to the agents and editors. Those would be the minimum, I think. If you are up for starting a blog to talk about writing and inspiration and the topic that you're writing about, great. But I think Facebook and Twitter would be a good start.
Okay. Here's from the Facebook group. Nicole has a big question. And I think instead of being able to answer it specifically, maybe Laura can take it a slightly different way. But Nicole wants to know who the best publishers are for unsolicited manuscripts. And of course, that is an impossible question to answer because every publisher is different and what have you. But maybe, Laura, especially folks who are just newer to writing for kids, talk a little bit about how to find publishers that accept unsolicited submissions.
Yes. So there's 2 parts to this. First of all, you have to really be honest about what kind of book you're writing. If your book has a real niche topic that might appeal to a specific group of people, say it's a book about a kid who was adopted and you want to reach children who were adopted or parents who have adopted or are considering adopting, and say it's a child who was adopted from another country. Very specific. You're probably going to be better off going with a smaller publisher who specializes in books like that. If you are writing commercial fantasy fiction with a big hook to it, and you envision this being a series and all of that, you probably would have some luck maybe going to the larger, more commercial publishers. So first you have to really look at what you're writing. Then if your goal is to be published by a large commercial publisher, you're going to have to find a literary agent. They aren't taking submissions directly from writers.
Except
Except if you subscribe to our newsletter, Children's Book Insider.
Those of you, by the way, we can't tell you this, but for those of you who don't know, so in the newsletter every month, we have a thing called Above the Slush Pile, where we give a code. We interview an editor or an agent, and they give us a special code that usually lasts for like a month that allows you to submit your work directly to them, even if they normally don't accept unsolicited submissions. I'm not going to tell you who we have, but I'll tell you what, since May is our 30th anniversary issue, it makes sense that we have a giant opportunity for those of you who are CBI subscribers. If you're not a CBI subscriber, go to writeforkids.org and see how to join. But I'm telling you, you're going to love the one we have for May.
So that's the only way you can submit directly to
yes.
Editors, is if you get a special code like from us, or occasionally these editors will speak at a writing conference and say, if you attend this conference and saw me, you can submit to me within a certain period of time. Otherwise, you need a literary agent. So that's the groundwork there. But to go about finding the appropriate publisher or agent, do the same thing. You want to look at published books that are similar to yours as far as the type of book, the age group, the audience it's going to reach, and see who publishes them. Then you're going to go to those publishers' websites and see if they're accepting submissions. And they will say on there how to submit to them. Sometimes you have to dig around a bit. It might be under the submissions tag. If they're really nice, they're going to have a little tab that says submissions or submit to us or how to write for us. They make it easy. Sometimes they hide it. It's under about us or contact us. So you have to dig around a bit. Follow their submission guidelines to the letter. For agents, you can go to their website, see the kinds of books they represent, and again, look at their submission guidelines. Now, there's a lot of other great industry tools that you can use to look up what agents and editors are doing, representing. Some of them cost money. One of them is called Publishers Marketplace. It's $25 a month to subscribe to. It's very much worth it. It lists all the deals that have been made, like on an hour by hour level in children's books. And you can see what editor bought the book. You can see what agent represented the book. And then you can click on their names and go to their links and then see if they are accepting submissions. So there's lots of ways to do it, but that's sort of in a real quick nutshell.
Sherry asked, what's the best place to find what an agent or editor is looking for?
Again,
besides Children's Book Insider.
Yeah, besides Children's Book Insider. Looking at places like Publishers Marketplace, that shows what editors are buying right now and what agents are representing right now. You can read, I love reading the reviews. And I mentioned that Children's Bookshelf from Publishers Weekly. Another great reason to get that is because they have reviews of recently published books. And in the review, they say who published the book, but also the agent who represented the author and the illustrator if they were represented by an agent. So again, you're seeing this is what's being published by these people right now and being represented by these people right now. So those are great resources as well. You have to do some detective work, and reading the industry publications and the reviews is a really good way of doing that.
And again, in CBI every month, you're going to get in that press time, and then with our Above the Slush Pile, right, a nice handful of direct opportunities.
And in at press time, I'll get to that. In at press time, I list market opportunities that don't require agent representation. But we also will list some listings of agents who are taking on new clients. So we come at it from both directions. Okay. Sorry, there was the question from...
Yeah, it was... oops.
It was about Publishers. So it's called Publishers Marketplace. That is the resource I talked about that you subscribe to. It's $25 a month. It's got a lot of great stuff in it besides just the deals. But that's where you can see who's... and also, yes, thank you, Beth, for reminding me. Manuscript wish list is a website that you could go to where agents and editors post what they're looking for. And Query Tracker is what you can go to querytracker.com and put in the search bar, looking for agents who represent picture books, and it'll bring up a list of agents for you. So those are two other really good resources.
Let's take a break and take a poll.
Okay.
What do you say? So again, for those of you who are on Facebook, you can type your answer into the comment section. Those of you who are with us on Zoom, you're going to get to take the poll directly. Now that I've figured out the system here. This is a fun one.
We think okay.
There we go. The question is, who's the best villain from this group? Let's talk a little bit about children's book villains. So the choices are The Wicked Witch of the West, Captain Hook, The Grinch, Count Olaf from Series of Unfortunate Events, and Cruella de Vil. So if you're in Facebook, if you want to answer, go ahead. Again, it's Wicked Witch of the West, Captain Hook, The Grinch, Count Olaf, or Cruella de Vil.
The polls only let us do 5.
No, actually, I just kept it to 5 too.
Oh, I thought we had more.
So let's see what's going on here. It's a tight one between the Wicked Witch of the West and Cruella de Vil.
Whoa.
Grinch is still hanging in there, though.
It's like a horse race. It's coming down to the wire.
Well, it's still some waiting on a couple of precincts.
Cruella's
we need that guy from TV with Steve Kornacki with the pointing at the big board.
Yeah.
Wayne County has not yet been heard from.
Come on, Wayne County, we need you.
Let me see what's going on in Facebook. And I don't see anything quite yet. Facebook is very hard to use for these sorts of things, I must say. Okay, so let's end the polling and see what the final results are. And Laura, why don't you talk just a minute while we're doing this about what makes a good villain? One of the things somewhere behind us here, see the little dog behind me here? That's from an article that we did a little while ago called How to Create a Great Villain. But we can tell you a little bit about that now too. So,
well, and we have to differentiate between villains that were written 60 years ago or more, like the Wicked Witch of the West, more than 60 years ago, and villains that are being crafted today in children's books. It used to be you could have a villain who was just pure evil. A lot of the old fairy tales, the evil stepmother, and they were evil just because they were evil. They just liked being evil. These days, the Grinch is a better example of the kind of villain that works today in children's books. So they have layers to them. They have, we kind of see why they're a villain or what happened to turn them into toward that villainous path. And it makes them more interesting. Or they are 90% bad, but they have a kitten that they adore and they take care of their kitten. So there's some little redeeming quality about them, which makes them more believable, I think, as a character, because rarely do you see a human being who's 100% evil. There's always layers to people. So I think the best villains, even in children's books today, have those layers to them, or they have a backstory that makes us sort of a little sympathetic to them on some level.
Someone wants to know, how do I know if I'm viewing on Facebook or Zoom? If you can type in the chat box, you're on Zoom. That is the answer. Okay. Vidya from Facebook voted for Cruella de Vil. Raymond voted for the Grinch. And we had a bunch of write-in votes for Lord Voldemort, which
felt, we considered throwing him in there, but we thought, well, that's a very obvious choice. We wanted to be a little more nuanced.
Cruella de Vil, very nuanced.
Well,
okay, so thank you guys for that. That is our final poll, but now that we figured out how they work, we'll incorporate them because they're fun. And if you're enjoying the polls, by the way, go ahead and type in the chat box.
And if you have any ideas for fun polls,
sure,
email them to us.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Is there a topic, Carrie asks, is there a topic for children ages 10 to 12 that is prominent right now?
I wouldn't say a particular topic. I would say there are kind of themes and what is the word I'm looking for? I can't remember the word I'm looking for. Anyway, inclusiveness, diversity, that is very big right now. Characters who portray, you know, the actual makeup of our country is very important. We are seeing a lot of books for as young as that 10 to 12, but certainly through YA on sexuality, sexual identification, all the nuances there. So basically, you know, the stuff that kids are thinking about and dealing with in their real lives are very much reflected in books. And again, that article I mentioned in Publishers Weekly about middle grade, I think would be very enlightening for you to read because they talk a lot about those kinds of things. I have a feeling when we get through all this, that we are going to see middle grade and YA talk about navigating through fearful times, not necessarily about the pandemic, but just other stories that have that theme of how to feel hopeful, optimistic, and safe when the world around you doesn't feel hopeful, optimistic, and safe, when things are going on beyond your control. And those are certainly issues that are going to be dealt with in books, I think. Now,
we want to get you out of here. We try to do this under an hour because we have other things to do. So we're going to do a lightning round, Laura.
Oh
short answers. Can
Remember,
you do it?
I've been up a long time today.
All right.
I am the pokey little puppy today.
Okay. By the way, the polls, thumbs up to the polls. Everybody loved them. Great. Well, more of those coming. Let's see. Robin, I have 3 books ready. What do I do now? And the first question is, are they really ready?
Are they really, really ready? The first thing you do, and this is a great time to do this, is put them aside for at least a month. And I know that's really hard to do, but if you can let them cool off and go back and read them one more time with fresh eyes, you will find more to revise. I promise you. So put them aside for a month and start working on something else. It's not going to matter that you're waiting a month. Everybody's backlogged right now. This is the perfect time to do that. Then you want to decide if you need to if you want to go for a literary agent or a publisher and start researching that. Agents love it that you have more than one book ready. That's to your advantage if you want to start looking for an agent. They always like to take on authors who have several books in them. So you might want to start researching agents while you're letting your work cool off.
I have three words for you: manuscript submission blueprint. Just saying. Writingblueprints.com. Just saying. All right.
It goes through all of this.
Yes. Natasha asks, will editors be open to a nostalgic writing style like Beatrix Potter now that people are returning to the classics for comfort?
Very good question. Very good question, Natasha. I think that nostalgic as far as topic, like those more quiet, comforting, delightful books like Beatrix Potter did, for sure. I think that if you go back and read the classics, especially books that were published like 100 years ago, over 100 years ago, like Beatrix Potter, there are issues of pacing and more telling than showing, and not as dynamic page turns as we are used to seeing today. So what you want to do is adapt the heart, or the, you know, sort of the soul of those books to the modern format of the way books are being written today, which is much tighter and paced more tightly, and you know, you have those definite page turns, especially for the picture books, that you didn't necessarily have with the older books. So it's sort of a kind of answer.
Let's see. Please give an example of a one-sentence pitch. Is it necessary to tell the ending? You're putting her on the spot. Like I said, she's the pokey little puppy tonight, but I promise you she's going to deliver brilliance. Watch.
Oh my God, no, no.
Is it necessary to tell the ending in a one-sentence pitch?
No. Well, No, no. What you want to do with the one sentence pitch is, okay, I'll tell you how to create the pitch. In our blueprints, I talk about writing a storyline for your book, and we go through a lot of steps before you get to that. But the storyline essentially, this is a book about the main character, Sam, who wants more than anything to, and you say what Sam wants, and I can't think of anything really brilliant right now, but can't because, and then you talk about what's standing in his way. That is the essence of your pitch. Now, what Sam wants and what's standing in his way have to be really interesting or different or mind-blowing. And if they are, that's pretty much all you need for your pitch. You can add another sentence or two that kind of talks about, you know, oh, by the way, Sam lives on Pluto, and, you know, but essentially you want to say who your character is, what they want, and what's standing in their way of getting it. And if those things are extraordinary, that's all you need in your pitch.
Okay, Yolinda. Yolinda was with us this morning. She's with us tonight.
Oh my gosh,
You're getting a full day of us.
Oh my gosh.
Yolinda, I'm really leaning towards self-publishing because from what I've seen, regular publishing houses take all of your rights. Can you give me some additional info that could help in my decision?
With self-publishing, which can be a great option for a lot of writers, it's especially great if your book has a real niche market, because you need to be able to identify that market and sell directly to them. So if you're writing general fiction, it's going to be harder for you than if you're writing, again, a book that's, I'll use that adoption example, or if you're writing nonfiction that can go toward a specific group or can be used in classrooms in a specific way. So that's one thing to take into consideration. Number two, how much do you want to market your book? If you are published by a traditional publisher, yes, they expect you to help with the marketing, but they're still going to do some. They're going to send out review copies. They might help you set up book signings. They'll do some stuff. You have to do everything on your own if you are a self-publisher. Now that could be a big payoff because you also get all of the profit and not just a tiny little royalty. So I think thinking about the goals for your book, is it because you really want to reach a certain audience and you're willing to do what it takes to do that? Or is your dream to see your book in a bookstore with a publisher's name on the spine and maybe see a review of your book in Publishers Weekly or the New York Times? By the way, these places are more open to reviewing self-published books than they were in the past. So it's not impossible to get reviewed by a big review outlet. But in our self-publishing blueprint, sorry, but that's the quickest
we need a jar where we throw
this
money in every time we promote one of our products.
No, but that's one of the first things that we have you do, is really go through your goals for the book and be realistic about what you want out of this book and why you want it. And it will help point you toward which publishing path you should take. So it's a very useful exercise to do that.
Okay. Danielle has a question. She uses my middle grade YA blueprint.
Yay.
In terms of writing a middle grade novel, can subplot leaps, and maybe you can also explain for folks what a leap is, can subplot leaps start before the main plot leap?
Okay, so in our blueprints, the leap is that moment when the character's life turns from ordinary to extraordinary. It's what ignites the plot. And with your main plot line, you have that leap, and you also have leaps with subplots, where suddenly this subplot becomes essential to the character to resolve in some way. And generally, you want that main plot to get started before the subplots, because the subplots are usually thematic. They're usually more emotional. They're less action-oriented. They might be about a relationship with another character or that kind of thing. I hate to give you a broad answer for middle grade YA because a lot of books, every book's different. So what I would say to you is, if those subplots are compelling enough that your readers will care about this character and this subplot before you actually get into the plot, the main plot, then you might be able to get away with it. But it's very, very hard for me to say that without actually seeing the details. In general, it's best to ignite that main plot, and then the subplots are going to affect how your protagonist deals with that main plot problem. So we're not going to see that connection until we know what the main plot problem is.
You know what? We may have to do a part 2 next week because we have a lot of questions. So maybe we'll do that next week. We'll see. Sure. By the way, Tanya says in the chat, you should promote the blueprints. They are the answer to every question.
Thank you, Tanya.
So I'll tell you what. Here's what I'm going to do. First of all, you can go to writingblueprints.com. That's where all our stuff is. And I'm going to give you a coupon code that you can get 20% off everything. How's that? And it's an easy one to remember. Joyful. Joyful. That coupon code, you enter it at, it'll last for a while. You don't have to do it right now. You can go, after you're done, go to writingblueprints.com and have a poke around at everything. And then use the coupon code Joyful to take 20% off of everything. Because as Tanya said, blueprints are the answer to every question. Okay, thank you very much, Tanya. Let's see here.
We weren't expecting that. So no, this is not a sales pitch.
No, really, but yeah, the one that we really don't want to turn these into is sort of like a pitch fest for our stuff. But you know, you should be subscribing to CBI and to the blueprints. Let's just be honest. Okay, all right. Tobias asks, how much description of a setting is needed? In this case, if your location is an area outside the White House, but let's just say more broad. If it's a famous place, if you're describing some place that everybody kind of knows what it looks like, how much description of that setting do you need to give?
Not a lot. And of course, remember, you have to figure out what age you're writing for. If it's a picture book character that you're writing, you probably have to have a few words describing, explaining what the White House is. If it's a young adult novel, you don't. So not much description. I think you want to have your protagonist interacting with the setting. So it's an active description. So have them, watching the guards outside the gate of the White House, or watching the tourists taking pictures of the White House, something like that, so that we know, okay, this character's standing outside the White House. And that's pretty much all you would need to do. So it's how your protagonist is interacting with the setting, and what they feel about the setting as they're standing there interacting with it is more important than describing the details of the setting.
And also, there's what's going on that particular moment at the setting. So, you might say, yeah, the fence around the White House always looks the same. The White House always looks the same. But maybe the weather is different. Maybe the people who are there is different. Maybe there's something in the air that's different. So it's not specifically about the physical thing. Sometimes it could be about the kind of the situation that's going on.
Okay, I see about pitch, the person, I don't see your name up there, who's asking, I can answer this question better now, was asking about a picture book bio. Okay, you use the same format, but again, your subject is going to be tackling a problem. So for example, I did a little webinar on creative nonfiction picture books, and I specifically, which is on Writing Blueprints.
20% off?
20% off. I specifically used an example, a biography called Girl Running. And, oh God, my brain, I'm sorry. I'm gonna sound like the stupidest person right now. I can't remember her last name, the subject, it was Bobby. Jesus. Okay. It's about the first woman to run the Boston Marathon. So the pitch would be Bobby, and I'm so sorry, I can't remember her last name. Dreams of running the Boston Marathon, but can't because the rules say girls can't run. Okay. That's your storyline that you would use to create the focus of your book and structure your entire plot. And she encountered this rule about girls can't run from a child. Girls weren't allowed to run in school. They weren't allowed to, there were no track, there weren't even running shoes for girls. This was back in the 1950s and 60s. And of course, when she ran the marathon for the first time, she was told by officials that it didn't count because it was against the rules.
Catherine Switzer.
No, that's a different one. Look up Girl Running.
Okay.
Nancy Chernin is, no, Nancy, I'm sorry. Like I said, my brain is just fried tonight. I will come back to next week and tell you the details of this book because it's an awesome book. But anyway, so take that storyline and then massage it and make it more dynamic. But that's basically the information that you need to show in a pitch.
Bobby Gibb.
Bobby Gibb, thank you, Bobby Gibb. You're identifying who the subject is, the particular problem that they're going to be tackling in the scope of your picture book, because you're not going to tell about their entire life. You're going to talk about this one accomplishment and why this accomplishment was so difficult. And then you make, like I said, make that a dynamic, interesting sentence. I hope that helps.
Okay. Let's see. Again, we got a ton of them. We're not going to get to them tonight, so we're going to do part 2 next week. So remember your questions or come up with new ones. Let's see. This is a very specific one, but again, sort of an interesting idea. Bonnie wonders what kind of publishers would publish books about kids living with a mentally ill parent. So more broadly, how do you approach getting something published if it has that sort of very specific disability kind of?
It depends on, are you writing fiction or nonfiction? If you're writing a middle grade novel and your character has a mentally ill parent, that's contemporary fiction, and lots of publishers would be interested in that. If it is a nonfiction specifically aimed at kids on how to navigate life with a mentally ill parent, then I would look at publishers that publish kind of those self-help books for kids. And there are publishers out there that do that. Another resource for finding publishers, which would be useful in this particular situation, is called Children's Writers and Illustrators Market, which a lot of you probably are aware of. But that book it's a guide that's updated every year, and it's indexed in the back by age group and subject matter. So you can specifically look up publishers that do self-help books, for example, for different age groups, if this is a nonfiction book. But if it's fiction, that sounds like the kind of book that a lot of publishers might be interested in, a lot of traditional publishers.
Julia, what are your thoughts on rhyming picture books being picked up by an editor or agent?
I think they are perfectly great if you rhyme well. We see rhyming picture books get published all the time. And the thing is, you have to write the rhyme really well, and the rhyme can't be more important than the plot and the story and the character development. That's the key. And the problem is when people write in rhyme, the rhyme becomes the focus, and they're so concerned with getting the rhyme to work that they let the plot wander all over the place. So you still have to write a good story. Really
interesting question from Lori. I love the diversity in so many new books, but sometimes the inclusion of certain characters seems gratuitous. How can you avoid that as a writer?
That's a very good question.
It is.
In picture books, a lot of what's happening is if the story itself is not about diversity in some way, then often the diversity is just added in the illustrations. The illustrator will draw a classroom with kids, lots of different kids in it, for example. If you are writing a novel, I think you just have to be true to the story. Again, depending on where your character lives, if they live, for example, in New York City, they're probably going to go to school and have friends with kids from different races because it's a melting pot city. If they lived in Fort Collins, Colorado, it's pretty white here. So you have to just be true to your story. And I think if you are writing the best story you can and the characters all have a reason for being there, then it's not going to be gratuitous.
By the way, because somebody just asked, we are recording this. We record all of our Kidlit Distance and Socials, and it'll be up tomorrow. If you go to our blog, which is writeforkids, WRITEFORKIDS.org, writeforkids.org, you'll see it there. Also, we'll send an email out with the link. So, because there's a lot of information you're getting tonight, you don't want to lose it. So you could watch it as much as you want. How about we'll do 2 more? You up for 2 more, Laura? I think we're losing her.
I can do 2 more.
All right, she's going to pull it. She's a trooper. This is a good writer question. Sue asks, what is meant by an inciting incident, and does it come at the beginning?
So the inciting incident is what I call the leap in blueprints. It's also called the catalyst in some writing instruction books. It's got lots of names, but basically it is something that happens in your character's life that turns them from going about their ordinary life into an extraordinary period of time. And it's that extraordinary period of time that makes up your story. Once that extraordinary period of time ends, your story ends. And they go back to their ordinary life, probably a bit changed because of everything they went through. But the incident could be they suddenly make a decision, they get a phone call, they see a poster for, a band contest, win $500, and they go, I got to get my band to compete in that contest, whatever it is. It's something where they go, okay, I'm going to enter this extraordinary period of time and go after this goal or solve this problem. And then when I've either accomplished the goal or solved the problem, the book ends. So that is the inciting incident. And it should come as close to the beginning of your book as possible. Sometimes you need a little bit of setup so that the reader understands why this is an inciting incident for this character. But if in a novel, I always say, if you can get that inciting incident in at the end of chapter 1, that's awesome. Or anytime in chapter 1, but by the end of chapter 1 is what you want. In a picture book, you want to have that inciting incident by the 3rd page of the book, which would definitely be within the first 75 words or so.
Thank you, Pam. Pam said something very nice about us in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you.
One final question, and by the way, there were a couple of questions about self-publishing and options. We could talk about that next week. Some different things to approach with self-publishing, and I know that Teresa Funk, who's the instructor for Self-Publishing Blueprint, is watching. So Teresa, maybe you can join us next week and we'll pop you on the screen for a little bit and you could talk about some options.
Definitely
different options. So she's really the person to do that. Okay, final question. And it is from Diana. How important are comps, comparisons, especially for fantasy, if there's nothing else that's really like that that's out there?
Okay, well, good that there's nothing quite like it. A lot of agents and editors like comps. What comps are comp titles. So in your query letter, you would mention a couple published titles that reach the same audience as yours, but you want to also sort of talk about why yours is different. So you might say it's a combination of, oh God, now I have to think of some fantasy titles because my brain is not working. Willy Wonka and Harry Potter. I don't know. Or you might.
I wonder how often, by the way, editors get pitched.
Yeah, you don't want to. And frankly, that was a bad example because you don't want to use a hugely runaway bestseller as a comp title because it sets up this expectation for your book that, let's face it, none of us are probably going to hit. So what you want to do is find, especially if you can find comp titles from that publisher, okay, or from the agent, so that they can see, oh, this fits in with the kind of thing that I'm already publishing, but it's different. So what you want to do, if there's nothing quite like yours, you want to have one comp title that kind of gives a sense of the world you're creating or the audience you're hitting, and another comp title, it doesn't have to even be fantasy, that gives a sense of the tone of your book. So say you're writing a humorous fantasy book. You might say Chronicles of Narnia meets Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I don't know, that's a really bizarre combination.
Could work.
But you never know. So that's one way to kind of get the comp titles in. If there's nothing quite like yours, add a second comp that's out of your genre, but that gives a sense of the tone.
All right. She made it.
Yay.
There's no smoke coming out of her ears, but she handled it. So anyway, if we didn't get to your question tonight, no worries, because we're going to do part 2 next week. And also hopefully, and Teresa, if you're listening and not, we'll contact her. But we'd love to have Teresa pop in and talk a little bit about self-publishing and some different options that you might have. Again, just a little bit of business before we go. First, if you're enjoying this, please share this. We want to have as many people as we can. We want to really build a community around this. We need to connect. We need to stay inspired. We need to keep creative and keep moving forward in a positive way. So the more the merrier. So please do share the information. We do it every week, same time. The link is always the same. So you can go ahead and just share this with whoever you like. Again, because you guys asked for it, with writingblueprints.com, the code JOYFUL will get you 20% off everything. And what you see on the screen now is, if you don't have the Ultimate Writing Cheat Sheet, please go ahead and get it. It's our gift to you. You'll really, really like it. And that's
send us your celebrations.
Yeah, and again, it doesn't have to be that you got published. It could be you got your blog set up, whatever it is.
You created a Facebook page. Yay.
Sure, absolutely. we really do want to make it clear that every step counts. Every step forward counts, and we want to acknowledge that, and we want to celebrate that with you. The recording will be up tomorrow, so we'll be sure to send the link out to everybody. And I think that's pretty much it.
And my goal is to be more sharp next week and well rested, so I can answer the tough questions.
She did. You answered all the tough questions. You did all right. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Stay safe. Stay sane. And we'll see you next week.
Okay, bye.